We rolling, Luke?
Yes, sir.
Oh, wow. This will be perfect. Just talking a little bit NCAA wrestling action and maybe some NCAA football, which leads me into kind of what I wanted to talk about today is supplementation for athletes. Take it completely out of the fitness space and let's just focus on athletes. So let's just stay right on the wrestling topic. What would be your recommendation for a wrestler supplementing? Let's just go in season because I think that's the most interesting aspect because you have to cut weight, have to make weight, all that stuff. So we'll just 197 pound wrestler. What are you giving that athlete if you got to direct that program to stay fueled, not feel depleted through training, through practice throughout the day?
Supplementation wise, I'd say this is kind of across the board for college athletes, really any prep athlete at all, or I guess amateur athlete, if we can still call them amateur athletes. I think I'm going to be boring and start with a vitamin mineral complex because it's tough to get your body to perform at its maximum if you're not giving it like the minimum requirements of micronutrients. And I think even if you're looking at RDA, recommended daily allowance of your magnesium, zinc, and minerals, which are really important that are lost in foods and stuff. We've talked about that. That's like, it's the minimum daily requirement for functioning, so right. You're not talking about a high end athlete. That this is when you're going to be using a lot of your magnesium, things like that are lost in sweat. So increasing your vitamin mineral intake. So your body is not, you want to be optimal, not normal, not adequate. So that's the first thing I would do for wrestler, kind of depending on, I think creatine's great across the board again for athletes. Yep. The only caveat there is everybody's like, well, the weight gain is water weight. It's stored in your muscle cells. That's why it works. And all that's true. But at the end of the day, you got to step on the scale and make weight. So for me, now I wrestled 20 years ago in college. I didn't take creatine during the season. Could I have? Probably early on. So
was that a conscious choice? Or you just didn't?
I didn't. So creatine was certainly available, and I took creatine in college, but I think it was more of one. There wasn't the information that there was out there today. Like creatine, this is my brain at 20, 21, 22 years old. Creatine was something I took in the off season to gain muscle, and I didn't want to be heavy during the season. But truthfully, like that last going into my fifth year, I was probably close to 220. In the summertime preseason, and then so I'm wrestling 197, and I wouldn't get huge, after I made weight. I'd be 205, on let's say on a Sunday after a tournament, and then cut down to 197 almost naturally, just with watching what I eat, and then a little water manipulation. That last day.
How much time do you get from weigh-ins to the match?
2 hours on a tournament, 1 hour on a duel. Okay. But before the duel or tournament starts, that doesn't mean you are wrestling on the dot.
Right.
1 hour. So, weigh-ins start and then an hour later, the duel, you're starting to announce wrestlers and stuff for the duels, but it's not much time to rehydrate. Really. Right. No IVs, anything like that. So, best you can do is some electrolytes, creatine, I might manipulate it depending on the individual, maybe 2 to 5 grams on creatine. And I would take that. I would take it pre or in the morning, and then not surrounded by the work. I think creatine for most people's completely benign, no effects on stomach or anything. Yeah. But I probably wouldn't take it peri-workout, peri-practice. If I'm just because it's such an intense sport, I want to avoid any complication from it. I would take it in the morning. practice is going to be at 3:30 or so after classes.
Were you guys training or anything during in season?
Lifting,
strength training.
Yeah. We would do depending on what it's different these days. These guys don't. You see the guys, the NCAA's, and in the tournament, really in the finals. God, some of these guys are wrestling 14 matches. You see these finalists, they're 14-0, 17-0. My junior year, I wrestled 42 matches. Like we wrestled way more. And you're talking to some guys that are, still involved in it. They said they're not wrestling the opens, which is an open tournaments is all, it's not, it's at a school, it's at a college, an NCAA school. But you're going to go there and you're going to wrestle D1, D2, NAI, JUCO. It's open. You can have a guy, wrestling for Team USA. He wants to get some mat time. You could pay your $20 and go in at an open if you want. So
I should do that.
That would be a great. We should video that.
Yeah.
So I will pay. I will pay you to do that.
When I was 6 years old, my cousin, who was a year younger than me, was a wrestler, and my family set us up for a wrestling match, and I just got embarrassed. I'm still embarrassed by it today. So
It's time. We have practice tonight. If you want to come out, kind of tune up.
I bet an 8th grader could.
We could find a duel for you, or an open tournament for you. Mizzou has one. That'd be great. It'd be a good experience.
Yeah. It'd be good for content. Let's be honest.
No, so the wrestling less match. Well, I guess the point is, I would probably go 2 to 5 grams, and then if I am having to manipulate some water weight, it'd be smart that last day probably not to take creatine last day or two. So creatine should be in there, and electrolytes because it's you want to rehydrate quickly and stuff. So after practice, I'd be getting not just my fluids in. You can rehydrate and be kind of mineral deficient if you're just flushing everything out and rehydrating with water alone. So I'd add some electrolytes. Protein, sure. You want to maintain muscle mass as you're going through the season. It's very very anaerobically taxing, which doesn't always lend to keeping muscle mass on. I always weighed less at the end of the season. I think my sophomore year I wrestled 187. I weighed in at the national tournament at like 193, and I remember looking around kind of embarrassed, like I don't want anyone to see that I'm 4 pounds under. What a pussy. So, but I think that happens to a lot of guys, especially in those upper weights.
Yeah.
It's, you start out the season big, but it's just so cardiovascular, such endurance. You're not lifting as much as heavy during the season. So keeping your protein numbers up, would be important. Whether you need to supplement for that or not, probably a college or high school student is going to need to. That is something I did. I always, went to meal hall and took either had a shake before I left my room or took one with me.
Yeah, I would definitely say if you're having to cut weight, I can't imagine a lot of college students are wary of their protein. I'm sure a lot are, but the wrestler stuff, if you're trying to lose weight, you're probably going, if you have to get really strict about it.
Both ways, right? Like keep your protein intake up and drop your carbs and fat. If you're trying to lose weight, you want to maintain your muscle mass, and same is true in reverse. If you want to gain weight, well, of course, keep those protein numbers up, and in that case, then bump up your. There are in a rare case there are some wrestlers that are trying to maintain a certain weight.
Yeah. So electrolyte, multivitamin, creatine, protein. That's something you maintain throughout the season.
Fish oil, I think fish oil is a good one, especially if you're trimming calories. And you're trimming calories, so all your macronutrients are going to take a cut. We mentioned keeping protein up, but if you're cutting out fats, well, that's great for healthy joints, and a big one's going to be hormone. How well you gosh, the sleep is huge, and so you're already fucking with your hormones if you're lack of sleep, you're training crazy. Well, androgens travel on lipids in the body. They're stored in lipids, fats. So getting healthy fats in. When you get older, you're just, well, it's good for cardiovascular. You're probably in pretty damn good cardiovascular health as a young collegiate athlete, but I think fish oil would be a good one too, to just bump up your omegas, lower your inflammatory response from practices and things like that, and help keep a healthy hormone panel.
Yeah. Where does GlycoFeed, a product like that, fit in?
I think that's intra. You take some breaks in practice, you can go sip on it. Certainly in tournaments, GlycoFeed's cluster dextrin, so just a designer carbohydrate, helps transport glycogen to your muscle cells without spiking your blood sugar, so no crash or anything like that. Awesome performance carb. I think we've talked about it in past. Didn't we even put the GlycoFeed kind of highlight or trailer or whatever in one, in a previous one. So that one we can put we can put a link to it in the show notes. But that would be one that I would say like intra competition would be a good one. Yeah.
Well, what about? I mean, Inter-competition practices, competition, all that stuff. But I mean, the benefits of it too, outside of it's a good transporter carb. So you mix your electrolytes with it, creatine with it if you want.
I need to peri-workout, if you're really sucking calories down because you have to make weight, but shit, you still got to go perform in practice.
Right.
You got to do that. So maybe, sucking down 25 grams of carbs or something, just kind of bookending that right before and after. That's 100 calories. You take a scoop before, a scoop after, you end up getting 200 calories, but shit, how many calories are you going to burn in an hour and a half practice?
Right.
Probably worth the extra performance you can get, and then for your brain too, for focusing during that time period.
Yeah, one of the beauties about glycofeed is it doesn't spike your insulin. So I guess I'm thinking
from
burning fat. The weight cut perspective, you can still kind of keep burning fat without any issues there. Okay. What else? Is there anything you'd throw in there? Where do pre-workouts and stuff like that fit for?
I don't think there's caffeine's a great performance enhancer.
Maybe not before a match, but I mean, they were strength training.
Sure. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Like, I guess it's a question of like, is it a want or a need? Do you need that to get up for a match, to get up for a practice? I don't think there's anything wrong with it, but I wouldn't put it on my required list of things I'd really look into doing, spending money on, as a collegiate athlete.
Yeah. Okay. So creatine, electrolytes, multivitamin, fish oil, glycofeed.
Yeah. Carb.
Okay. For you, what was kind of like your routine? Let's go straight to a duel or a tournament. Mm-hmm. What were you eating? What were you drinking back then?
I mean, the route, like you were fed, you know what I mean? Like you go to your meal table, your cafeteria and stuff. My diet wasn't super strict. I did try to watch it, but also, like I said, I was also a 20 to 22 year old dumb shit. Really, if I would say if you don't look back on, what you did 10 years ago, it's like, oh gosh, I wish I knew then what I knew now. But my diet, I did make sure I came from I had a good background from home. My parents had a good, set good examples, and these are, healthy eating and things. We didn't really talk about dieting, but we did talk about eating healthy. So I wasn't eating junk and stuff like that. I'd always make sure I had a good protein source. And back then I thought, getting my greens was really important. So I'd make sure I had something green on my plate, and kind of for me, manipulating my body weight, I would do kind of with carbs, watching what I ate with carbs and starches. Which is tough to do, especially following practice. You're going to dinner and you're starving,
Yeah.
But as far as diet went, right up until, I would say, it depends on how much weight I had to get off. But up until the day prior, to weigh in, so say if we're wrestling a duel would be like on a Tuesday or Thursday. If it's on a Thursday, my weekend up through Wednesday was probably pretty normal. Cause you can float, a lot of weight off even in there. I would float 2 pounds off in my sleep.
Right.
So if I could get, say I came in on a Monday practice and I was 205. Okay. Well, I got 8 pounds to lose. That's pretty simple to do. I can pull off 2 pounds a day, on average. And then that last day, say on a Wednesday, if I had to weigh in Thursday, I'd eat carbs up until practice, normal meals. Pretty much I might just reduce the size of the meal. Practice, I would rehydrate after practice. Cause then you're going to have, so say if the duel's a 7 PM, you don't weigh in till 6 PM the next day. So you really don't want to cut out your water. No more than, 24 hours out. You can't just dehydrate and stay dehydrated. This is a note for the you wrestlers that are in high school. You'd be in practice on a Wednesday, wrestling on a Saturday. You have these guys in a fucking sweatsuit. Like, what are you doing? You're not going to drink until Saturday. You're just really depleting your body, your energy, your minerals, all these things. Like, you actually need to be in there in shorts and a t-shirt every single practice. Not even if you're wrestling on a tournament on Saturday, like that doesn't mean Friday you go in a sweatsuit. You might do that Saturday. You might do that Saturday morning, go for a jog in a sweatsuit. If that's an emergency, you have to pull some water off. But my water manipulation was water follows carbohydrate. Carbohydrates fill up muscle cells with water. So I would carbohydrates. So I would slow down my carb eating after really my eating. I would try to get some protein and stuff in right after practice, cut the carbs out after that, maybe through the next day, just small meals, get a run in, probably get some extra water off before weigh-ins.
Okay. Did you ever cut it close on weigh-ins?
Yes.
Was there? Yeah.
Yeah. I remember one time I wrestled at, where did we go? I just thought, I don't know what the fuck. This is why you cut it close. I wasn't paying much attention. I thought my weight was better than it was. We showed up. It might've been in Columbia. It might've been like an early season open. We showed up in Columbia and, I was 2 pounds over.
How long did you have?
An hour. And so I stepped on the scale. We get off the bus. I went and stepped on the scale and had a real, oh shit moment. So I went down in their wrestling room and just started running. And they called everybody up. Hey, everybody come up and weigh. And I told a buddy of mine who was a 184 pounder, I said, come down and get me when they are shutting down the room. And he gave me his warm-ups too. So I'm just running. Well, he didn't come down. Coach had asked where I was. And so my Coach Bickley comes down like, King, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know. I ran up there. Luckily they had a scale that was, there's like 4 scales. And they had a scale that was weighing a little light. So I ended up being 2/10 under. Probably lost a pound. I was 2/10 under. But it was, there was never a time I didn't make weight. That was the closest. And man, there was hell to pay. Like that's just something you didn't do.
Yeah.
You're on scholarship. You're kind of, that's a job. And making weight's like one of the, what you weigh. It's one of the simplest things you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you don't make weight, you can't wrestle, right? So
you can't be one. Yeah, right. You can't be 197.1.
Okay.
You don't make weight.
Okay. What are the consequences from the coach?
Embarrassment, shame. You let down there's team
points. It was a different time back then too, so they could probably say and do whatever they wanted to you.
Oh, think about it. Like you don't make weight, so you're sitting there. You're not scoring points for your team. Everybody else is competing, and you're riding the pine watching. It'd be awful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have teammates that happen to?
Not often, but it did happen. Yeah.
Were there consequences like for practice?
I don't remember. I don't know if he had the run. I think it was just, it would, it almost probably would have been better if you could run and make it up to the team or something. But I remember we traveled, I think we wrestled in Northern Colorado. We traveled out there and had a guy not make weight. You're missing class, you're cutting weight, you don't make weight. Like, and then that's a duel.
Yeah.
So you got 10 guys with the ability to score points on your team. If you don't make weight, oh boy.
Right.
Yeah.
What's the most severe case of like negative consequences you've seen people trying to make weight? Is there anything crazy that you saw from teammates, high school, college?
Like injury wise?
I mean, just like the negative consequences of like they were just doing it wrong.
Yeah. Me personally, I saw some guys, negative consequences, some pretty bad cramping. I didn't always do it right. So doing it wrong, like I remember, I wrestled with guys that are like, they're like the field test, like, popcorn's pretty light. I could eat popcorn. Like, well, it's fucking starch and salt. Like you're gonna stick to everything else that you come in contact with. But it's like the weight test. Like, this is pretty light.
Yeah.
So Skittles. But so like stupid stuff that made it probably harder to make weight. I took a bunch of laxatives when I was like a junior in high school, but I wasn't eating. So it's kind of like, hey, like they don't work, but they did work. It was the next day. I wrestled the first 3 matches I wrestled. I was so lucky I didn't shit in my singlet. The thing was,
that ever happened to anybody?
I'm sure it has. Not that I've seen.
Okay.
I do remember this. Like I wasn't eating. Like that was how that's how I'd make weight. I was little. I was trying to wrestle 140 as a junior, which is probably too much of a weight cut. And what I did was I got these, I go to like the supermarket and I go to Kroger and get these laxatives. I don't know shit about what I'm doing. Like, talk about dangerous. I didn't know, but I didn't know anything. So I just thought, well, I'll eat those and I'll poop. And that would be like the simplest way to make weight. Well, I ate one and it kind of, if you
Basic
kind of,
math.
Yeah. If you kind of pretend, but I hadn't eaten any food. There's nothing to shit out. So I had eaten one. There's like 4 in a package or something. and you could take up to, 2 and 12. I don't know I don't remember the instructions, but I know I ate all of them because it was pretty tasty. It tasted kind of like a Tootsie Roll, this little chocolate Tootsie Roll. I'm like, well, this is like
this
a negative. It can't be like, it's kind of like your mouth kind of watered and got. So I ate all of it. It gave me some cramps and stuff that night. Weigh in, drink water. I'm like, oh man, it's like the Dumb and Dumber. Like, I gotta shit. But then the rest of that day, until the afternoon, like every time I ate or drank, I had shit.
Yeah.
So I'd wrestle a match into the bathroom. Like kind of getting your stomach going and stuff. So that was probably my biggest negative consequence of trying to make weight.
That sounds horrible. I'm glad I never competed in a weight dependent sport.
Yeah. Anytime I have like nostalgic feelings, this is for any wrestlers out there that are in the sport now. It's all worth it. It's all worth it. All the hard work, even the weight cut is worth it. But when I think of like, man, that was fun. I miss it. The nostalgic, the smell of the mats, the room and stuff. You'd never think of the weight cut. We'd do like, oh yeah, that whole not eating part that sucked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our high school, I want to say our junior year, and then after we graduated, they went on a run and won like 5 state championships. But I just remember a lot of the guys played football and whatnot. I just remember a lot of them being miserable.
Yeah,
like you didn't hang out with them during wrestling season because they were miserable. And
I hope that's, I don't know. I'm not involved in a high school program now. I think it's gotten better. I know like this went into effect when I was in college, and it's down into the high schools now that you have to certify. So you do a weight, a hydration, and a body fat percentage. They tell you like this is the maximum amount of weight that you can cut. So if you weigh 200 pounds right now, they're going to say, Tyler, based on these factors, the lowest weight you can wrestle's 185.
Okay.
Which, oh shit. So if you want to wrestle, so it goes like 184, 187. If you want to be a 184 pounder, you probably need to be watching your weight, which is smart in the off season. So you can certify at the weight you want to wrestle. That happened to guys where they didn't get certain. They had to, wait and try to, the kind of last chance certification to get down to the weight they wanted. So they wouldn't compete until that second certification. Had a guy we had one guy on our team that also played football. So he was kind of delayed coming in. He was heavy. He had to get some weight down before he could certify and then start competing.
Were there any? I've heard of stories. I wouldn't be able to tell you when it happened, of people going into the supplement stores or whatever and getting like quote unquote diuretics, and it really messes them up. Were there anybody like that you knew?
Not that I knew. I had heard of. I think. I don't know. I mean, I'd have to look this up, but I think there were some wrestlers that either gotten some major health issues or even died, like in a sauna. Some high school kids. I'm guessing in the end it was more like an electrolyte imbalance with dehydration, but that's what kind of led to the high school certifications and dangerous.
When did that go into effect?
Early 2000, as far as the certification, college early 2000s, high school was shortly after.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, you said about the electrolyte imbalance from dehydration, but then there's the opposite of that. There's the electrolyte imbalance from overhydration. We had a kid our senior year. He was one of our best linebackers. He was notorious for cramping just throughout his career.
Also just drinking.
So, our first game of our senior year was against one of our rival high schools. We had just gotten new turf. The stadium was packed. It was pretty crazy. But he had been drinking like gallons of water for days leading up to that. And by halftime, he got taken to the hospital like after one of the first plays in the second half because he was cramping so bad. And he almost died because he flushed out all of his electrolytes. Yeah. Which is just funny to think that why didn't we think to use electrolytes? Like who was not telling us that, hey, you can't just do water.
Right. I will say this though. Because electrolytes we sell electrolytes. We have a great Thirst Plus. Shout out to
shout out
Thirst Plus. We have a great, but it should be used for people who are its performance. Guys using electrolytes are so popular right now. It's like a fucking water flavoring drink. You've heard people, what's the element?
Element T.
Getting in trouble like 'cause they're drinking 3 elements a day. Like they replace their soda with element to make their water taste good. The fact of the matter is, for most people, even people who are active and stuff, Jesus, you don't need to be taking an electrolyte supplement all the time.
Right.
Most you don't need it all, especially if you're eating a standard American diet. How much salt and shit is on all of your stuff?
Yeah. So
I think the marketing, just to kind of get off on this for a second on a soapbox, you probably don't. If you're a normal person, you work out 3 or 4 times a week, you go on a walk every day, hopefully, right? And you're wondering if you need to supplement with electrolytes, probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Throw a little salt on your mashed potatoes or whatever.
That being said, buy Thirst Plus.
But
just
if you
take
do,
1 scoop a day.
But if you do,
I bet I would venture to guess that most people could probably take a scoop of Thirst Plus a day, and it's going to benefit them.
Depending on the person.
Don't because it comes down to the ratios of the electrolytes. If they're oversalted, you still need to get the magnesium, the potassium, all that stuff.
And I mean, for the most part, if you take in too much electrolytes, you just piss them out.
Right.
But the fact that people are like, I got to get my electrolytes. I'm going to flush out all my nutrients. Like, no, you're not. Yeah. That's not a thing.
Right. Well, there's a lot. There was, it's pretty recent. I want to say this chick died or got
that was one of the elements
from,
right. She's like 3 elements a day. It's 3 grams.
Yeah.
Of electrolytes.
Well, look at the ratio. Look at the supplement facts too. It surprises me the amount of people that don't look at supplement facts when buying supplements. But yeah, look at it. Like that's 1,000 milligrams of sodium in one shot.
You're drinking 6 Gatorades.
Right. Not necessary.
Right.
Okay. One last.
I don't know how much sodium's in Gatorade.
Like 60 milligrams. Not a lot.
You're drinking way more than 6 Gatorades.
Yeah. I could be wrong.
Neither do I.
We don't
take a stab
know.
at it.
Yeah. Last athlete profile here. Give me a breakdown for a Division III football player, cornerback, safety type.
Handsome mustache.
Starts a few games. Mostly is on the bench.
Coach didn't recognize his talent.
Yeah. Loves to be in the weight room though. What are you recommending for that person?
Probably like piano lessons.
Quit.
Yeah. Save everybody the time and effort, and
never had to go work on the scout team though. So this person was, just teetering.
That person avoided that.
Yeah.
Same thing. Keep your protein numbers up so you can keep your lean body mass high. Was this person trying to gain weight or lose weight or maintain?
Well, I would say during football season, regardless, it's hard to keep your weight up.
Same. Yeah. Just because all the activity.
I would recommend try to eat in a caloric surplus. Not a huge one, but enough so that you feel good.
This is one of the cases where I think, like, even if you're talking supplements, right? Let's just assume you're already eating a good whole foods diet. If you're talking supplements, a weight gainer could really, I think for football players, that sport, especially a weight gainer a good quality weight gainer can come in handy, because it's really difficult, especially with young athletes, to kind of force feed yourself. If you've ever people who say like, oh, my kid eats so much, he tries to gain weight, and then you break down what they're actually eating.
Right. Saw it all the time.
They're not eating that much. Like, if you're a big guy trying to really put, a surplus is 250 calories over. If you want to put on good mass, you can only go about 2, depending on the person. It's going to be, there's the 1%ers out there. So please save the comments. But just speaking relatively, 250 to 300 calories surplus is going to be about where you can put on good weight. And if you think about that, that's every 10 days, that's 3,000 calories over what you've been. 3,000 calories a pound. So you're eating over what your body is required for maintenance. Now, it's tough to do that. One, time reasons. If you're an athlete, you're in high school, you're going to class and all that. And then 2, a lot of kids just don't want to eat. It takes a lot of effort. I mean, there's been times where I'm trying to gain weight, and I'm a pretty disciplined person, and eating, if you're eating 7 meals a day, and you're trying to get, if I'm trying to get 5,000, it's a pain in the ass. It's not fun.
Yeah.
One of the easier things you can do, and why I recommend a weight gainer, is because liquid calories are easy to get down, right? That's why a lot of people get fat. They're like, oh, I eat really good. I do drink beer. I have 4 beers. Well, it's all just fucking calories, and it's super easy to suck down liquid calories. But if you're trying to gain weight, protein shakes, weight gainer in that case come in handy, because it's a lot more palatable to drink than it is to force feed yourself. Yeah.
What about, would you throw glutamine in the mix for any of those athletes? I would think glutamine, just because you're stressing your body out.
So as I said, that the more intense the training is, I think the more essential glutamine becomes.
And that you're not losing, that glutamine through just physical stress. I mean, it could be life stress.
Any stress. And one of the nice things about glutamine is what it's in the rare case of an amino acid that actually will convert to glycogen relatively easier compared to other other nutrients. So it's great for gut lining, immune health. Can be depleted, as you said, in really intense, stressful situations, be it physical or even just mental stress. So yeah, glutamine would be a good one to throw in too.
Yeah. Going back to like football players, wrestlers, off-season strength training. Is there anything outside creatine, obviously, outside of kind of the basics that you would recommend? Like a product. It seems kind of crazy to recommend to a younger kid like a product like mTOR, but would you recommend a product like mTOR if they want to if they want to get really good? I always maximize.
Right. I always would put like in tiers of importance. You know, I think mTOR is a crazy good product, but it's not my top 3 if I'm looking like protein, vitamin, creatine. Mm-hmm. So I'm budget conscious, I guess, like for the parent or you can have a grocery. They all help, right? They all add something. I think there's, you can get diminishing returns. You can get, super redundant with the list of supplements you take, but it can be a grocery list too. So I think mTOR phosphoric acid can be a great addition to those kind of those staples.
Yeah. Where are we sitting at, Luke?
36 minutes.
36 minutes. Okay, so I got one more thing I want to talk about.
I've got a couple when you're done.
You can go now if you want. No, I want to save yours for the end. You always got great questions.
Thank you.
Even if you don't bring your laptop to work. I'm considering, and I'm terrified to do it.
I'd stay male. I think you're just going through a confusing time.
All the news out there just got me confused.
No, I think you can let Brooke be the man, and you can still say male just to test it.
Okay. Well, okay. Gender roles are.
Shout out to Brooke.
Yeah. Love you, babe. Cutting off just a week. Cutting off. That was a bad one to lead in with. Caffeine and nootropics for a week. What do you think of that?
Why? How? I guess. Okay. Yes. How much caffeine? If you're wanting to do like if you want to do like adrenal detox, probably going to take more than a week.
Yeah.
Number one. But it's really going to depend on how dependent you are on caffeine.
I don't know if it's I say I'm not dependent. I say I'm not dependent on nicotine, but I throw in, one of those out pouches every chance I get. I'm like, I don't feel anything from them. I get excited when I get the head rush from it. So
it's when I don't, I feel like
yeah, exactly. So like cutting that out, the nootropics, only because after a while, like you're draining your ability to create it yourself after a while, right? So I'm thinking about just taking a break off. One, because I kind of just want to see what it's like, and kind of reset it. So the nootropic wise, about a week. You're saying caffeine's going to take longer. So
I would do this too. If you say I feel different when I don't take it,
I know that when I'm going to get into the weight room, I'm going to feel sluggish.
What's your caffeine intake right now?
I've been using Stim Rush a lot, and then I'll either do a cup of coffee or maybe a Ghost. So,
and that's it.
Yes.
So you're looking at 500 and 550 ish caffeine a day.
But I've been doing it for like.
That's not a ton though. I mean, if that's total daily caffeine, it's not a ton. Here's what I would recommend. Instead of going cold turkey and cutting it off, take more than a week, but titrate down.
Okay.
So you don't have this huge deregulation on your central nervous system, like your body's out of whack and what the fuck, because that can actually add to stress too.
Yeah. And
cortisol levels and things like that. So your body's trying to get back in balance. I think you could titrate down. Say if you're doing Stim Rush, start by cutting the serving. Go a week where you cut the serving in half. The next week, skip the cup of coffee, and then take a week of nothing. Before you build back. Now, in any variation of that.
Yeah.
But I think you can titrate down. Then when you come back to doing it, maybe you get the same or more benefit from doing a half a serving of Stim Rush,
right.
No cup of coffee, or on the easy one for me. So I do this kind of along the lines of the same reasons. I don't take a pre-workout. A lot of times I don't do it during the week because I work out in the evening. But I always come to work and I always have a cup of coffee. Mm-hmm. It's a red eye. I have a cup of coffee with a shot of espresso in it.
Yep.
But I don't do that on the weekends. And I do notice it in my mornings. Like I'm fucking dragging.
Yeah.
The best way to get over that is activity. And it sounds like the workout guy, you got to go move. Like I will force myself, like I'm dragging ass. This is kind of my sleep in. So it's like 9:00, 9:30. I roll out into the garage gym and I just get on the Airdyne and I start pedaling. The other day I did it. I was going to go out and just move for 20 minutes. I ended up moving for an hour.
Yeah.
And when I got done, I'm like, whew, like this feels great. Here's this is a good for anyone listening. Because you'll hear people say like, I just don't have the energy to work out. That's actually the opposite. You don't have the energy because you don't work out. You know what? So what happens immediately following a workout is you have this more blood flow to your brain, which means more oxygen, more blood flow to your extremities. So your body's literally woken up from that activity. Then you get into the downstream effects on metabolism. So if you're working out, a week in a row, you're consistently, well, now your metabolic rate is up. So your body's burning more calories. Well, that's the measurement of energy. So you're using more energy, you're burning more energy. So it's not, you got to stop. If you're telling yourself, I don't have the energy to work out, you need to flip that on its head and start telling yourself, I don't have energy because I don't work out.
Yeah.
Start your day with 20 minutes of activity and you'll have all the energy you need throughout the day and to go get another workout in.
Yeah. I feel like it's all or nothing for a lot of people, or maybe I'm just overlaying that because I'm kind of like that. It's all or nothing. I've tried to get better about it. If I ate shitty, then I would, fuck it, I'm not going to work out because I just ate shitty, or I just wasted my workout because I ate shitty. So you kind of got to get over that attitude about it. But what you're saying, as far as you got to move, like it's kind of like a natural pre-workout just to get the blood flowing. So kind of like my plan was before, I was going to bump down the lifting a little bit, get a little bit more cardiovascular exercise in. I was only going to do EAAs, glycofeed, and then L-citrulline and beta-alanine. Still do a pre-workout, but kind of lay off the no stems, no nootropics. Because one, just seeing not seeing all the stuff, but just kind of like the science behind it and all that stuff. If you're constantly hammering those receptors and stuff, that you kind of wear them down. So I kind of want to just give them a break for a little bit. So that's kind of my plan. But
do it. Report back to everybody the next pod we have.
I'm not ready to start. I gotta let me get through this weekend. I'll start next Monday. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with that. Just because I would really like to feel the effects of some of these again.
But you get up and move first thing in the morning anyway.
Yeah. I've told people for a long time, like I just take a pre-workout because I know if I don't take it, like mentally, I'll feel like I should have, and I'll feel crappy. And I feel like everything's going to feel about 1,000 pounds.
I think that's a huge hurdle for everyone. It's funny because like my son, he's 8 and he's now like, he has the benefit of me having experience in some of this stuff and passed on to him. You ever have how much did you want to go to practice when you were in college? Not a lot. I can't remember how many practices I'm really gunning to go in there.
Yeah.
Or the weight or everything else. But once you got to practice.
I loved Fridays in college when we were just wearing helmets.
No pads.
Doing walkthrough.
But the thing was like, and sometimes they suck. But my son says this now. He's like, hey, Sam, you ready? You want to go to practice? No. And he's 8. No, but I'll be okay when we get there.
Yeah.
And so we talk about it a lot. Like once you go, like once you get the warm up stuff and going, your buddies are there and you're jacked around, you're having fun. Like it's the same with activity. Like your alarm goes off, whatever time you're getting up at 6 and you say, I'm going to get up. I usually get up at 6:30. I'm going to get up at 6 to give myself 20 extra minutes to go work out. Like when your alarm goes off, God, no one wants to get up. No one wants to go do it.
Right.
But once you get out there, you start putting one foot in front of the other, like this ain't so bad. Yeah. And then by the time you get done, it's so rewarding. Well, then you want to do it again and again and again, but not every time the alarm goes off.
Right.
You're chasing the feeling afterwards, not the feeling. No one's popping out of bed. Let's go. Yeah. I mean, there might be some psychos that do that.
Yeah.
That's not me.
Speak for yourself. Well, and there's a really good effect to that too. Like you said, you feel better after the workout. To me, you have more energy throughout the day. But the other thing I noticed too is like you sleep way better. You're actually ready to go to bed by the time,
And if you're the other kind of psycho like me, you hate yourself for not doing it.
Right. Yeah. It's true.
It's a good place to get.
Yeah. Honestly, it really is. Like you should be mad at yourself for not going.
Yeah.
I've tried to adopt that. And I've talked to Luke about this a million times, but I've been more consistent with just my working out, regardless of how my diet was throughout the week or that day. I'll feel a little bit better that I at least worked out.
I have even weeks where I really downregulate, take it, not an off week, but kind of a deload week. But it's not a day that goes by that I don't have some activity.
Yeah.
I don't feel like myself.
I was even thinking about, it would just be fun. I was there a couple weeks ago. I was just kind of tired of being in the weight room. It was getting kind of stale, and I was like, but I still want to move, but I don't want to go do the treadmill. I don't want to go do any rowing intervals, anything like that. I was like, what would be good is just like go play pickup basketball.
Yeah.
That's a workout.
Yeah. I play tag with the wrestlers before practice.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
Just run around moving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Luke, hit us up.
One question and one comment. The comment is nice sunglasses. You guys look sick.
Shout out Tim Dillon. We're doing it for him so maybe he'll see this one day and he'll roast us.
Yeah, so if you're not watching the YouTube video, here's a reason you get to see Brian and Tyler in sunglasses inside.
And wearing the same shirt. We actually wore...
Don't tell everyone this.
Yeah, I'm telling everybody. Because you called me and asked me what I'm wearing that day. Every day this week, this is Wednesday, Brian and I have worn the exact same thing.
These are company shirts. Tyler gets to work before I do. Which
is why he calls me.
We have these shirts in the building. It's pretty clear what's going on. He sees me get out of my car and quickly change his shirt. Like, oh, boss, look, we're wearing the same shirt. Look at us again.
But my question was kind of going back to the supplements and athletics and stuff. We've worked with some universities, and obviously we all played college sports and everything and been around them a lot. What do you think why is there so much pushback against supplementation, especially for college athletes? Are there really strict rules? Because I feel like it is not
really
talked
stupid
about
rules.
enough. Like, I mean, I remember when I was in college, I don't think no one talked about supplements. I don't know if they were taking them and we just weren't talking about them, or like, it just seems crazy to me that there's not like and maybe it is at big universities. There's just not a really strict regimen that all of these, D1 athletes are taking these.
No, Luke, that's a good question. The thing about the shirts is I only have so many shirts and they all say Titan on them. Tyler does too. So the odds are there for us to wear the same shirt 3 days.
I can give you my Wrestle Athletics.
This kind of on regulation recommendations.
Yeah, just kind of like what's.
I think a lot of athletes are scared to take supplements because the fucking banned list is so big, and there's a lot of nomenclatures for different names of stuff that they're not sure of. So it scares a lot of athletes into thinking they're going to take a banned supplement or a tainted supplement, which is very fucking rare, guys. But there's not a guideline. If that's what you say. Most of them don't have a guidelines. Now we sponsor some collegiate programs that provide protein and stuff to the athletes. Creatine's an example of because we've had to kind of cut through some red tape and help out with some of these collegiate programs that have a wholesale access to Titan Nutrition. We sponsor, and there's just some oddities like. A collegiate athlete can take creatine, but the school can't provide creatine.
Right. And for a while, there used to be a thing about just a protein powder. There had to be a carb ratio.
There had to be a carb ratio to protein, which is silly because they can.
Are you checking out what they're eating with their steak and chicken?
Exactly. They can go sit down and eat. It's milk protein. So I could go sit down. I could eat. That's from a cow. I could go sit down and eat a steak without rice, and that's fine.
Yeah.
So there's some weird things. I think. Supplements say, from the 90s on, there's been an area or a sect of people that kind of paint with a broad brush and say that they're dangerous. You don't want to be taking supplements. We've talked about, the scare of creatine before with whether, kidney, it's all these things that it's going to bad that it's going to do. And those stereotypes take a long time to go away. I think it's better now, but I do think there's a lot of fear with athletes taking supplements and just lack of education. Even caffeine is banned at a certain tolerance, but gosh, I don't know what the what kind of milligrams you would actually have to ingest to then test positive for
that's
caffeine.
What I was going to say. The testing is what always kind of got me working in stores, and it was an NAI Division III school, so nobody was getting tested. I don't know do they test Division I athletes more often? Or is that what they're worried about? Are they testing them for steroids? Or are they testing them for street drugs? Those are completely different
Schools
things.
testing for street drugs. The NCAA is testing for everything.
Okay. But like how often, because if you were going to get tested,
random.
You would randomly get pulled.
It's random, but then in postseason competition, every All-American. So it's random. Like if you go to the tournament, like it's random testing there in competition. And also, every All-American will get tested. I believe that was the case, but every All-American will get tested.
Okay. Yes, that's wrestling. I don't know what it.
I don't know. I think in most cases it's random.
Yeah, because canvassing for athletes and whatnot, and we've come across college athletes, and they're scared to really jump on board because, well, I don't want to get tested and pop for anything.
For what? Yeah.
So it's the red, like Brian was saying, the red tape, but then also just the list that you get is like makes 0 sense.
Yeah.
0 sense. So
I get it. They want to keep kids safe, all for that, but it's kind of a twisted ball of twine in terms of trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Is that it, Luke? That's all
I got.
You said questions, so.
Well, I changed one of them to a comment. I was going to ask a question about your sunglasses, but then I didn't get to compliment you, so I just went with that.
It was pretty bright in here.
Yeah, sun's peeking through. Perfect. Let's wrap it up.
Thank you.
Call it.